Check. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats, chickens, dogs, snakes, and frogs. It's Tuesday night, it's 9 p.m., and you know what time it is. It's time for Nightcap Knowledge. And we up in this thing. Shout out to everybody on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and now X. Live on X. Formerly known as Twitter. I was Joan of Arc in my former life. I was Twitter in my former life. I'm sorry. Every time I think about it, never mind. We'll talk about it. Awesome show lined up. It is the Mental Health Roundtable. Our sister Tanya Boyd Cannon has assembled an all-star lineup. Some of the most influential people in mental health. So we're going to get straight into it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Nightcap Knowledge. Hey.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Play the drum like little children before they learn how to play.
Yeah.
Hold on, I need to adjust my exposure.
Yeah, just your
What?
exposure.
What?
Like a no limit soldier. Yeah.
Woo. Hey man, do I look real crisp? I like you set up.
Okay.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I like it.
Now watch this. You remember?
No, don't this dude.
Wow.
He in his feelings. He's in his feelings, y'all.
Wow.
It's a great day to have fun.
That baby in his feelings, y'all. Somebody come and pray for him. He in his feelings.
Hold on. Let me
don't play with me.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You know we're getting close. You close to Halloween?
Mac, go ahead on and give
put that sage on him. Put that sage on him.
Carlos Santos. Getting his mind right. Good evening, everyone. What's up, Sherry?
Hey, man,
Sherry,
everybody. You might hear anything on this show, and the reason is because this show is rated Black and Uncensored, real talk, real issues, and real solutions. And we're gonna tend it like a TI is, and we're gonna try to have a good time as we do so. So, what y'all drinking?
I had some wine.
I had some wine.
Red wine.
Oh.
I had something from the Mississippi coast called K Luke whiskey. All right, it's
Yeah.
in my cup. I haven't had it yet, but it's one of the things on my bar. Shout out to Canal Wine and Spirits. Oh, he got
Shout,
the birthday bottle. Boy, that boy,
yeah.
look at the little blue bow.
Shout
Yeah,
out to
look,
shout out
the
to
other
my
bottle, the other bottle disappeared. I don't know what happened to it.
baby. I ain't gonna even imagine because y'all just coming off of Tougaloo alumni weekend. You know.
Put me in time. Put Fred, me, and Mac in timeout.
No, sir. Tied. When I tell you that
Listen.
Tougaloo, when they tell you, when you learn the alma mater of Tougaloo, they mean every bit of it. they want,
Yeah,
they
I
Es-
saw
es-
that.
Especially that test part.
yeah, test thy eaglets. Rise thy eaglets to the breezes.
Uh-huh.
They
Yes.
tested
He
us.
enjoyed the test. They enjoyed
Yeah,
it too. All right.
Listen, we got a full packed show tonight. So Matt, go ahead and drop the mental health minute so we can
I actually
maximize
think
our
my
time.
mental health minute is going to be dropped. It's going to be somewhere picked up in the group that we have that's coming up. We have a specialist that's going to tell you a lot about mental health. But the mental health that minute I had was importance of celebration, and the importance of celebration means not celebrating yourself, but it is really good to celebrate yourself, celebrate your accomplishments, celebrate what you've done, but also celebrate friends and just to see the fellowship and the same guys that we would look at each other crazy 10 years ago. Now I'm like, man, happy to see you, right? Because so much has happened, so much happened with
Right.
life. We've lost some people that were there a couple of years ago and not there now. So it makes seeing the other people very, very important when you see classmates and folks ahead of you, behind you. So importance of celebration. So that's it. What we doing? Entertainment check in. What's the groove? What we
All
doing?
right. Entertainment check-in is so simple, man. Shout out to all of the artists who are up for being considered to be a Grammy nominated artist. Congratulations to each and every one of you. I'm so proud of you all, and it's a beautiful feeling because I've been there. I know what it's like, and yeah, keep shining, man. Because music is available, and music is needed. Music is healing, and so we're going to talk about that tonight. And I also just want everyone to, I just come off of doing a women's retreat in Fort Walton
How did
Beach,
that go?
Florida. Phenomenal. It was your non-traditional women's retreat. Although it was a church who put
Mhm.
this event on, it was way far from church. So it was one that I was able to just pour into some amazing women,
Yeah.
share with them, and also come home withdrawing from them as well. So I was able to deposit and make a withdrawal so we can avoid NSF fees in our lives. And so I left them with, I gave myself permission to, and
Hmm.
to continue to deposit so you can withdraw what you want so you don't have to wake up to those negative fees. You
Mm,
know?
come on with it, somebody. Come on with it. Well, look, y'all know what the groove has been. It's homecoming season. Um, we had a time. We celebrated a woman who deserves all of the flowers that she can get on this side of glory. So one more time, one more shout out for Dr. Linda Daniels, one of the long. Yeah, let me give some.
Woo! She needs some M's.
Yeah, and some.
Yeah. Ew, 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 ew.
And look, man. So we did it at the tailgate, Tanya.
I love it. I listen. I wanted to be there. Listen. As
So
God moves, I got to be obedient.
yeah.
So the next year maybe it's gonna be even bigger and better. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I already got my notes for next year. I got 16-foot tall my atrium with my banners going across it because this year we just did 8 foot and that was a little short.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to go 16 feet high, 16 across. I already got all the schematics and the banners already drawn out. So if you're out there, you're looking for a way to reach a very large crowd of people that are a part of your target audience, you need to be reaching out to us. So we're looking forward to it. And that's the groove, man. You know what I'm talking about?
I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, look, we're rolling with it tonight because I'm excited. Oh, you was looking for me, Marcus. Listen, I want to be a fresh, fried hard piece of trout, baby. Let me tell you something. Listen, listen, my mouth watering right now, baby. Come and look at this. Listen, I wanted to be there, And as God see fit and moves, doors are opening. And so I pray however God moves next year, I'll be there and be able to do what I love to do, because I have a
God, you.
major idea that I want to do for Tougaloo Eagle Queen, we love thee. Mother Eager. Listen, I already know. But tonight's show, I'm super excited because we're talking about mental health. It's a mental health roundtable. We have our own in-house Dr. Fred. Let's go ahead and bring Dr. Fred in this thing.
Most
Because
definitely.
yeah, Dr. Fred, come
He in
on
here.
in the room.
There you go.
What's up, Dr. Fred?
I'm doing fabulous.
Good. Have you recovered?
Not quite, because I just got back to Chicago about midnight last night.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get home till about 1, and I had a few hours of sleep, and I had to be in the office at 10 a.m. So trying to recover though.
Come on, somebody.
Listen, I saw photos and I sent love and looking forward to being there in the future. So you need to make sure you're drinking buku water.
Mm-hmm.
Pedialyte and coconut water, that Cocopedia.
Cocopedia,
But
boy.
we've been talking about this show for at least about a month and a half now, and how we wanted to not just highlight, but bring attention to the traumas that are happening or that have happened in our lives, which create other spaces of mental health psychosis, right? Psychosis or psychosis? Which one? Did I say it right?
I don't know.
I would
Psychosis,
just say psychosis.
psychosis or psychosis?
Psychosis.
Somebody go and look that word up and see if it's psychosis. I like the way it sounds, psychosis.
It sounds like you want to play the hi-hat.
Yeah,
Psychosis.
psychosis. Yeah. Anywho, but yeah, especially now because schools have started. We have families who are going through all types of traumas. We have kids who are going through traumas. We're coming up on Halloween. We're coming up on the holidays. And a lot of families deal with a lot of trauma as well. See, it's psychosis. Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you, Dr. Ware.
There you go.
Psychoses.
Psychosis. I like psychosis. Psychoses. I'm
She just want to
sorry.
play the hi-hat.
I like psychoses. Psychoses. All right. All right. Professional. We're going to keep it professional. But we want to talk about a lot of how families have struggled due to the loss of loved ones. Let me not say loss because we know where they are. The passing on of loved ones, as well as different losses within our lives that are not always physical as far as a being. It may be a pet, it may be loss of a job, it may be loss of your finances, like all of these things that families experience that we don't, thank you so much, that we don't highlight and talk about, especially in the Black communities. And so tonight's show, we had talked about this, about bringing our professional clinicians in the room so we can ask these questions, as well as give professional advice, resources, support for families, especially now, so we can attack what they may be dealing with so they won't have to bring it into the holidays. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I mean, it slipped my mind, and I know Chuck and I usually do a good job of trying to catch this. Uh, Definitely want to highlight the memory of the young brother, Jalen Barnes, the young brother at Jackson State who lost his life this homecoming weekend. Actually, found out more he was trying to break up a fight.
Wow.
So, young brother, everybody had nothing but positive stuff to say about him. Part of the D9 family, he's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. So definitely, we start thinking about the loss, the trauma. Jack State Council class, Monday. So you just like that's something that they are never forget or never get over.
Yeah.
And he lost his life trying to do something
Positive.
that was right, positive.
Yep.
So so definitely want to highlight, and I wanted to keep his family and friends and those who knew him in their prayers and check on them. Check on folks, really check on them.
Yeah. Rest in power, Jalen. You're doing the right thing, little brother. Wow. So that's a great way to segue into, and I hate to say the great way, but that's how we segue into bringing in our professionals who are live and sitting in the waiting room. We want to bring them in the room. And Dr. Fred, I'll let you go ahead and introduce Dr. Reginald, and I can introduce Dr. Janae and share those things. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and bring in Dr. Reginald K. Riggins. He's a licensed clinical psychologist out in Texas. And right now he's running his own private practice. So let's bring him on in.
Welcome back, Dr. Riggins.
It's great to be back. How you all doing tonight?
Good. I'm going to go ahead on
Thank
and
you for having me.
This is actually my therapist, and I love her to pieces because from the first time I started my sessions with her, I've always called her Dr. Janae. Mm-hmm. And we laughed about it because she's like, Tanya, after so many sessions, she come back and say, God must have called you. I'm going to start calling you Prophetess Tanya because I'm going back to get my doctorate, and I'm going to bring her in the room because she has given me so many nuggets and peace of mind in being a Black woman, a Black mother, wife, and just being an all-around beautiful being. So Dr. Janae, come on in the room.
Come on. Good evening, everybody. How are y'all?
Good.
How are you?
Doing well. Thankful to be here for sure.
Yeah. Dr. Frey, you want to bring in Dr. I want to say it right, James Selena?
Mm-hmm.
My soror.
Uh-huh.
You want to bring her on and bring that beautiful blue and white in there?
Absolutely. James Elena Tyus, LCSW, and she works with the alternative school system in New Orleans, Louisiana. And she's also my cousin.
Bring on and come on in the room. Oh. Hey, man, look at this beautiful panel.
So I didn't know I was supposed to put on a Zeta show. Then put on
No, you good, Soror, you good.
Look, I go get my cap again real quick.
Listen, come on,
if the spirit moves you,
Listen.
Gotta follow.
No, you good, Soror, you good. It's amazing, and it's great to have all of you all on tonight. I'm definitely going to allow Dr. Fred to segue into how important this topic is tonight, and then we're going to jump right into questions or some of the stigmas that we deal with in the Black communities when it comes to trauma. And it's something that we don't like to talk about. I'm the mother of two beautiful Black adults and now a grandmother of a beautiful Black little girl. And it's something that we tend to brush under the rug, and it ends up passing on to the next generation and so forth. And then you find that the kids now today are dealing with those traumas that families could have dealt with, 3-4 generations before, but they chose not to. And so, Dr. Fred, you have the floor. I'm going to pour me a glass of wine.
Okay. And just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, Tanya, trauma is something that I would say is kind of steeped in our experience as African Americans, because of course our ancestors have experienced slavery, of course, racism, maltreatment, and then of course you have a lot of physical abuse, poverty, societal pressures, alienation, all of these things that our culture has experienced. And we have to have these discussions about trauma and how it's impacted our communities. I think I was reading some research that said that the rates for trauma in the African American community is actually the percentage rate is higher than it is for other communities. And so these are things that we need to be talking about. Definitely need to be talking about.
So why do you think it's hard for us, and you all can jump in, why do you think it's hard for us in the Black communities to deal with traumas?
Well,
I
first and
think.
foremost,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Riggins.
You sure?
You go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think there's an inherent um, ideology in our community where we don't talk about these things. Um, there's a religious aspect to it, where we keep things, with God, and we pray and we worship and we, give it up to Him, to make our troubles go away, which is not a horrible thing. But they say faith without works is, unalive. And also, what happens in this house stays in this house. That rhetoric that kind of gets spread through, and then you just have this persona of, hey, we've gone through so much, we can't seem to we can't look weak. We don't want to give out the impression that we are, especially Black men. And so we'll keep that stuff buried inside of us for as long as it takes, just so that you continue to to perceive us as strong. So there's a lot of elements that's culturally in our community that keeps us from actually getting that relief that we need in terms of when it comes to trauma.
I was gonna say all of those things actually. Working with the kids, you still hear those things like what goes on in this house stays in this house. There's still a big mistrust when it comes to therapy and therapeutic interventions within the Black community. A mistrust of therapeutic of therapy, even even with Black therapists. So there's still a mistrust. It doesn't work. Different things like that. And also, we just, like you say, we just don't talk about it because, we just, it's uncomfortable to talk about, and the lack of communication, lack to be able to communicate how we feel and different things that go on, things that are passed down from generation to generation, like the way that we discipline our kids. We're still beating our kids. We are still believing that that's the way that it works now. And not understanding that when we get to a certain age, that those spankings or that type of discipline doesn't work. So we're still working from slave type stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think, as both of you say, it's definitely intergenerational and it's passed down. And I think a piece of it is that slavery mentality, but also we over the years have looked as our trauma as a badge of honor. And so as kind of our generations have come along and in some way have been open to therapy, that is not always well received from our elders. And I think a part of the importance of our history, our culture is that we respect our elders and we don't challenge. And a lot of times when we propose a different way, that is seen as disrespect. And so I think a lot of that has a big part of it too, why there is that resistance. And sometimes there is, of course, not safety in belief that therapy can work or that it's for us, but I think there's also so much unsafety within families, because a lot of our trauma comes from within as well. And so it's that lack of like, I can't disclose this because what does that mean for my family? So I would agree, it's so multifaceted for sure.
And then I also just kind of want to add to what you're saying, Ms. Mitchell, that we have this inherent need to protect family.
Absolutely.
Blood, we always hear growing up, blood is thicker than water. If you don't have family, you don't have anybody. And so even if it's the family that's hurting you, even if it's the family that's traumatized you, even if you've had these negative experiences coming from family, we still are supposed to stick together and cover up, even though they might be the ones that are administering the trauma.
Yeah. How do you talk? I was talking to a police officer, I want to say yesterday, and he was saying, we were talking about especially Black men with trauma, and wanted to get therapy. And he made a comment and he said, I understand what you're saying about trauma, but it's hard. And so he began to tell me his story and things of that nature. And we're talking back with Hurricane Katrina hit 18 years ago. So we're talking about 18 years of packed trauma, right? And so he said, he's like, Tanya, listen. He said, I believe it works. I just haven't found the right person, right? So my question to you all is, in your professions, how do you undo the therapy that created more trauma to heal the trauma that they need, that they're dealing with?
I've been doing that for 10 years. Working in the VA system with veterans who, for a number of reasons, have a lot of mistrust in the healthcare system. A lot of the work I had to do pre-treatment would be to kind of break down barriers and walls that were built from previous experience with other providers. Having someone that looks like them makes a huge difference. My face may look very young, and so that's a barrier, but then we break through that once we are able to recognize, hey, he's like me, or he comes from where I come from. And speaking in a way where I can understand what he's saying. I'm not using big words to, that's confusing, and I don't feel scared to ask questions. So the first thing you have to do is to make it very comfortable for them, make them feel like they're talking to as close as you can to a family member almost, where what is said in here outside of a couple of things stays in here, right? And then you proceed to build that trust and that rapport. All right, now I got you now. And now we can move forward, helping you process, this trauma that you're going through. I've had veterans from the Korean War to the current era. I've worked with veterans in their 70s who never told anything that happened in Vietnam. I had a guy who never told his mom what happened out there. And by the time we were done, thankfully, she was still alive for him to talk to her and get those things out. And that was therapeutic. So it's really about creating an environment that makes them feel comfortable and give them something different than what they had before.
Yeah, I definitely think just that safety. And I think not having a time constraint, I would say, on it. I think sometimes therapists and just people in general, like, you have the way that you do therapy. And sometimes that can cause more harm if a person is not maybe progressing in the way that you think they should, or maybe that you're used to. And so I think just allowing the space of safety and being present and really focusing in on that rapport building, so that the person has time to see that this is different. And I think also just acknowledging their experience. I think sometimes we can, even if it's not our intention, protect the profession. And that sounds a lot like that's another form of trauma. That's what family can do, or what people could do, or we're like, well, we kind of try to change the narrative. And so I think just allowing them to have their experience and honoring that, and saying, if you did not get an apology, I am sorry that happened to you. I assure you that I will be here. I will be present. I will walk this out with you. And allowing your actions to back those words.
But outside of all of those other things, knowing where your strengths lie as a therapist, to be able to say, I can't help you in this area, and be willing to let that person go and refer them to someone else to be able to help them. So you have to know, like, this is my area of expertise. I need to refer you out, because I told Dr. Smith, who I call lovingly Fred earlier, I was like, you know what, I don't know a lot of stuff, and I admit I don't know. I'm not, I may not be the best in some areas, but my ability to get along with people will get me in the door. But my expertise will keep me there. And when I don't know something, I have to be able to release that. I can have the best relationship, but if I can't help you, I'm not gonna hurt you. So we have to be willing to release, because when you're dealing with because we have groups and stuff like that. So talking to some of these groups, they're worried about the dollar. You have to worry about the person. So you got to let that other stuff go and say, I can help. If you can't help that person, let them go, because you're gonna do more harm than good. You just want to keep the money.
That's good.
And see, we all have to take the Socratic oath not to do no harm.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
In the field with you, Dr. Tyus, listen, all y'all are doctors.
I'm not a
doctor.
Listen,
I
tell her that all the time.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. One thing I say, one thing for sure, two things for certain. When you work as hard as you do, and it's not to knock anyone who achieved doctoral statuses, but when you love what you do, it's some kind of, I just give honor and respect to that. I've always said that with Dr. Janae and Dr. Tyus, and I'm gonna say it with you.
Girl, you
In your
I ain't going back there. Y'all
but
keep
look, in your field with children, what are some of the traumas that you deal with? Because as an educator, that's why I'm home now, because a student brought a magazine clip to school with 16 bullets. And the school, and I share with my therapist, she know, and I can share it
Mhm,
freely because I that's my healing. My healing is knowing that I did my job,
mhm.
and I'm also going to protect my peace by not surrounding myself in a toxic environment.
Okay.
And I'm not speaking of the child, I'm speaking of
Mhm.
the adults who are trying to sweep it under the rug.
Mm,
So when we're
girl.
talking about children, how do you, or what some things have you found yourself, practices and skills that you've used with kids that you've experienced that are, because you're dealing with those alternative schools, the traumas that are within the kids.
Well, I mean, we lost 3 kids. We lost, yeah, at the beginning of the year we lost 3 kids. Two to homicide, and one just died. So the children that I deal with are pretty much desensitized to murder and just loss of life. So just teaching them, about actually showing them the different things, different life things, being supportive of them because they don't always get the support at home. So
Yep.
we need to understand when we're dealing with these children. And mind you, like most of these deaths were Black. We did lose some of our Caucasian students to homicide, but most majority of them were Black. I lost a young lady this summer as well. She was shot like over 29 times, 17 years old. Had just had a baby.
I know
So
exactly who you're talking about.
they're very
Yep.
desensitized to murder. So just teaching them that, hey, you're gonna live past 30. So let's not set our minds on, I'm only gonna live to 30. I may as well just go out here and just live it up, live life, just
Right.
trying to show them different things about life, teach them different
Move over to your right, because we
Oh,
only see
I'm
half your
sorry,
face. There
because
you go.
look, I'm not trying to show y'all my dirty office.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm sorry. Trying to just, talk with them, just be there for them, because a lot of kids I work with don't have support at home. Their parents are tuned out, they're worked to death, they're emotionally absent because they're going through some of the same things that the kids are. So I have to be the therapist, I have to be the parent. I do a lot of education, I do a lot of group work, just showing up for the kids.
I had a
To
kid today at court, and it's amazing how it went down because I'm coming down the steps, and he was coming up the right side of the steps, and then he jumped over the banister, and he goes up and he stopped and he said, "Miss Cannon." And I say, "Remind me your name." He said, "This me, I'm Shaq." I'm Shaq. I said, "Bring your ass here, boy, and give me a hug." And I hugged him, right? And I hit him because I had this thing where I put my hand right on their chest
Mhm.
to let them know I feel your heart and I want you to know I'm here. I said, "What are you doing with yourself?" He said, "I'm not in trouble." That was the first thing he said. He said, "I'm on probation though, Miss Cannon." And I said, and this is I'm very straightforward with my kids who are, like you said, desensitized. And my question was, "Why are you on probation?"
Mm.
And he began to talk. And I said, "What do you want to do with yourself?" He's 21. He said, "Miss Cannon, I really don't know."
Mhm.
And I said, "What do you like to do?" He said, I like, designing clothes, shoes. He said, "Miss Cannon, can I have your number?" I said, "Give me your number," because in the court you can't bring your phones in. So I
Yeah.
said, "Give me your number." So I wrote his number down. I said, "I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna send you a list of things I want you to do." I said, "If your ass don't do it, I'm coming across the river. I'm gonna knock the fuck out you." That's how I talked to him, right? He said, "Miss Cannon, listen, Miss Cannon, you ain't changed. I ain't playing, Miss Cannon. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm gonna do it.
Mhm.
Cause look, Miss Cannon, I see you. I see you. Yeah, I see you. I see you. I'm trying to be up there with you, Miss Cannon. I'm like, and I'm hearing the pain
Mhm.
of him feeling like he let me down
Mm.
Right.
because that was my words that I've always given them since elementary.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, "I'm gonna stay in touch with you, and I want you to be successful." And so the question I wanted to ask you all when we're talking about trauma, What does safety looks like? What does it look like for someone who's experiencing trauma? Because we've used the word safety about 4 times tonight, 5 times. And my therapist, she know I always talk about safety. And I'm an open book when it comes to therapy. What does safety look like for someone who wants to get therapy but feels like the trauma has more weight over their healing?
Safety looks like um, experiencing something different than what you had before.
Mm-hmm.
So therapy is the one place on this planet, maybe outside your pastor's office, that you can speak in a way where you won't be judged or
Mm-hmm.
you won't feel like you regret saying the things that you said, and
Mm-hmm.
you actually get something out of it. Because that's the thing with traumas, that you typically avoid these things,
Mm-hmm.
and the avoidance is what keeps the trauma alive. So when you start to confront the trauma in a therapeutic way,
Mm-hmm.
you start to get a different experience, because you don't know what it's like to move past the avoidance part.
Right.
So when you get an opportunity to say, hey, you know what, I told this person this thing, usually, I get ignored, or I get talked down to about it, or may feel bad, but this person listened to me and they actually cared, about what happens to me or what
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. So that right there is like the first start of building that safety, that safety for them.
Yeah. I was just thinking as you were speaking that I'm not um fully sure if there is like a specific word that we can put to it. So I think the way you spoke about just the experience being different is big, but I think it's a feeling.
Hmm.
And that for a lot of our clients, they may not have like that kind of emotional intelligence of like, okay, I feel they can kind of name like I feel like this, but
Hmm.
people know what they feel, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think
Hmm.
as you
Hmm.
continue in the process, you can work to educate about those different feelings, but a person can tell you like what something feels like. I Tanya knows like I do a lot of work early on with check-ins on like just us working with feelings and emotions and how those things connect. And Tanya, if you feel comfortable, I'll share like
Mm-hmm.
when we first started, I definitely feel like there was some resistance there for her. Um, but by the end of that session, like she was able to like tap into some emotions that I think maybe prior to that point,
Hmm.
she had not even been able to do with anyone. And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Hmm.
yeah, maybe she couldn't say like, "Oh, Janae, I feel safe," but she knew, but she felt that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I think it's really in feeling it and then learning how to put word to those feelings.
Right. And when you're working with students, like you said, the student that you were working with, he saw you, he was able to hug you, he felt that safe space with you, and you were able to do that. Because just finding that with the kids that we do work with, like a lot of them, they don't even like touch. Don't
Nope.
touch them.
Mhm.
They don't want you to touch them.
Hmm.
They don't want you to hug them. But when they do feel safe with you, you're gonna get that. You're gonna want that hug. They're gonna want that. They're gonna, because they know that you care about them. So you
Mm-hmm.
provide them that space, that to feel safe and to do those I statements, to say I feel this or I feel that. Because most
Mm-hmm.
times when you're working with kids, particularly, they're very easily triggered. So
Mhm.
this, they don't know. There's no I feel. There's the I fight.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's I think just to your point, when I was working as a school counselor, there were many days that I honestly walked away feeling like I'm not sure if I'm making a difference. Like, cause it's very defeating, honestly.
I question my
Um,
life choices every day.
Absolutely. But I think what really reaffirmed it or confirmed it for me a lot of times is just the fact that my students knew that I would be there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
Hmm.
that didn't look like having the right words sometimes. That didn't look
Mm-hmm.
like doing new activities. That looked like them knowing that if they needed to come into that office, that Miss Janae was gonna be there and we could sit, even if it was silence for like the first couple minutes or there was tears, like just the mere presence that somebody told me that they're gonna be there and they actually are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But as a part of what we do is what I found since I've been doing this work is that consistency,
Yep.
or that you show up. It's the showing up piece, which makes it hard to, like when you work in school environments and like it's walking with, like with adults, I mean, adults will leave you because for adults, therapy is kind of like dating. You date until you get the right one. That right one, you kind of latch on to them. But with children want consistency. They want to know, when I come here, you're going to be here. Because one of my kids said, Miss James, they call me Miss James. They said, Miss James, don't leave us. Don't just say us and leave. Don't leave us. I'm like, wait a minute, you about to graduate. How you gonna tell me not to go?
Right.
But I know that just doing this work is like consistency, just showing up, being there and being consistent with the kids. But as far as dealing with adults, they want to know that you're going to be there and you're going to listen to them as well, because sometimes all they want to do is release.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also wanted to add, just to kind of piggyback on what I heard Dr. Riggins say earlier, creating a non-judgmental environment is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I have clients that come to me that say, hey, I like coming to you, Dr. Smith. I like your style. You never judge me about on how I'm feeling or what I'm thinking or my experiences.
Yeah.
I feel safe talking to you. You don't make me
Mm-hmm.
feel guilty. You don't make me feel wrong. I already know that I might be wrong for thinking the way I think or feeling the way I feel. But you never make me feel worse than I already feel. You always help me see the reasoning and the rationale behind what I'm thinking, what I believe, what I'm feeling. And now that I'm able to see that, now I'm able to work toward the healing. Because for the longest, I didn't know where this was coming from. And now that I see it, now I can actually change my battery and disrupt this pattern of behavior and emotion that I've been experiencing since I had this traumatic situation occur.
I think as therapists, we provide stability, and we give them an anchor to get to be still, because trauma throws everything off every which way. And when you have a chance to be still and actually process and think through certain things, it allows you to grow. It's all right to be uncomfortable, right? Because that's the only way you grow.
Yeah.
But you can't grow if you're not sitting still. Think about plants and flowers, right? They don't move around. They stay in one spot and they grow up, right? So we got to give them that stability and that consistency that Ms. James said earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, you want to jump in?
Oh, I'm sorry.
There he is.
Man, I was just listening, and I think about the first question you asked about trauma. The question is, what is trauma? What does trauma look like? And I always talk about normalized chaos. So if you have what environmentally induced behavior, certain things become a norm. So a lot of us, we had to get together and talk. We can't tell you what a traumatic experience looked like, because even though it's falling to the definition of the textbook, trauma is normal everyday life for us. And that's why you have such a high resiliency sometimes with different stuff, because it sounds crazy, but your situation puts you in a position where now you are able to help hundreds of you that probably would not have, not been helped if it wasn't for your situation, because you were the person that took it and did something different with it. And that's one thing that I heard, and talking about the mistrust. I think of a story when I was at the VA. We had a guy. We were doing an intake, and usually when you start asking about education, he was embarrassed to tell about his education. So usually thinking that they don't have an education. He had a bachelor's. He had a master's. He was part of a fraternity. He had high ranking, and as a frontline person, he was embarrassed to have had that, and to be there in front of us. So once we started having a fraternity war, because the other guy that was in the room with me was an alpha, and we started going back. He got real comfortable, relaxed. We just kept it real cool, and that made him feel better about talking to us. But he was just embarrassed. He was ready to let us think he had not finished school versus telling us that he had graduated with a master's and make folks feel comfortable. So that just hearing those things, and then of course we did our 9+ years working with children, adolescents at the PRTF, and the trauma is normalized. And but also for me, I always tell people I think about the story Ray, right? The movie Ray about Ray Charles. You don't let nothing make you no cripple at all. You don't let your situation, diagnosis, whatever it is, does not excuse you to fail or not do well. And you learn to take that and get the energy from it to propel you to be successful. It's no excuse because you're diagnosed with ADD. That means you study different. That means you study in short amount of times. Get up, walk around, go pet the dog, and come back and study. I had a client that I used to let out the back door of the unit every morning so he can run up and down the basketball court, then come back in and take a shower so he can go to class. It's no excuse for it. And that helped them build a resiliency, because the flip side of it is them children could read their diagnosis better. They can read a regular book. And we don't want them to use that situation either, to think that something is wrong with them and that they're supposed to be treated differently. They like, yeah, you had a situation happen, but you're going to bounce back from it. And you're going to go through life being better than you ever thought you were going to be, and just pouring that positive energy into them. So I think this is really good. I'm actually getting ready to do a Man Talk series this week. I got 3 different events that I'm doing to have these conversations. And one is going to be at the homeless shelter, and then one is on the college campus, and one is open to the public. So yeah, we got a lot of work we're doing, and we continue to have those conversations.
We just want to remind everybody we have the mental health roundtable tonight, but we also want to let you know, for those who are experiencing any type of trauma, you want someone to talk to, and you need someone to talk to right now tonight, you can dial 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. We are all here to help you. We want to help prevent suicide. So dial 988. The Lifeline provides 24/7 free and confidential support for people in distress. So we want to make sure that we bring a space of safety for anyone who's dealing with trauma tonight with our mental health professionals that are in the building. A question came in, and I know this is really something that we need to talk about. How does a college campus deal with trauma at micro level? At a micro level, like how can we deal with this and just find solution for all the students who are dealing with the trauma as well?
So Jackson State, and I'm a graduate of Jackson State 2 times over, and there's a couple of clinics, the Applied Psychological Services Clinic, and there's another clinic named after a young woman who was killed by her boyfriend. Lord mercy, I can't remember her name.
Natasha Norman.
And there are 2 places that, if students are having a tough time with what's going on campus, to seek out those resources. Also, if you're part of if you have a faith-based organization in town as well, seek that out. If you're part of any type of organization, the point is to to congregate and to get close, to not be separate, but to come together. But there are resources on campus and outside campus, for those who are struggling.
Feel free, y'all can also jump in. We're speaking with college campuses as well as just massive groups who've experienced trauma, whether it was at school, at church, because we've seen a lot of traumas happening in the church setting. So you all could talk to that as well.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to talk about relationships, because the person, whoever has the relationship with that person, because on the college campus for us, Chuck and I, one of our favorite guys on two campuses is a guy named we call him, his name is John, but everybody call him Juicy. He's part of the facility, personnel. Everybody know him, everybody talk to him. So it's just it's on college campus, whoever you got that relationship and that rapport with, that might be the person that you open up with. And in a situation like this, you need all hands on deck. And this is Jackson State's second death in 2 years, because last year the young man was killed and left in the trunk for a week, and then after Thanksgiving break. So this is trauma after trauma for those students that were there.
I wanted to, before we, go any further, I want us to kind of maybe spend a few moments talking about trauma triggers. Because of course, when we encounter a trigger after trauma, we can experience a strong emotional and behavioral reaction that can come over us. And it's like we're reliving the trauma all over again. And so trauma triggers can be anything that can remind you of the trauma. It can include certain smells or particular songs or sounds, or even a piece of clothing. And of course, they're unique to the individuals. And so I wanted to just kind of, ask my colleagues here, what have you seen when it comes to triggers?
Anniversaries, birthdays, just like being in the, because I work in the alternative school, just being in the school, because we've been experiencing homicide so frequently, just the death after death after death. It's triggering, for the kids, because they live in fear. They live in constant fear of, am I next? And what happens with those triggers is that it becomes like they become really survival oriented. So now everybody's out to get me. So we have we're having fights. So, and then they try to do memorials like long live this one or long live that one. It's a lot. So, yeah, but birthdays, holidays, the anniversaries of the death, things like that, those are triggering.
I think, go ahead. You were about to.
No, and I was just going to kind of ask, and how do you know, not only, what triggers have you seen, but then how do you know that somebody's being triggered?
Yeah, I think that's actually like the deeper question too, is because a lot of times clients may not know that it is a trigger. I think that comes out through the process. And so when I think about some of my clientele, it is through us doing like a biopsychosocial, which basically kind of just reaches back through the lifespan. And so we will be talking about like experiences growing up. And from there we'll be able to maybe connect to like, well, every time I hear, a person talk to me in this way or say this to me, I go from 0 to 100. And I remember even when I was in school, that would happen a lot. And I would do a lot of like, what do they call it? Restoratives with like the teachers and the students, because like a teacher would not know, like they might talk to the child in a certain way. And to them, it may seem like, well, that's just what I say. But to a child who maybe has had a parent talk to them in a demeaning way or say specific things, it triggers that type of response where it's like, well, they think I'm stupid. I'm not stupid. And so now I can't hear anything else because I'm triggered. But they don't, because it's so normal per se, they don't realize that that's triggered. They just like, I don't let, or you might hear people say, I don't tolerate disrespect, right? That's trauma, to have such a like visceral reaction to certain things, right? And so I think for me, it's whenever I'm in session or even just talking to people, like just being able to pick up on those kind of like small little nuanced things.
Okay. And being that mirror for the person you're working with, so they can actually see what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not normal. You know, it's normal to you, but outside of your environment, this can land you in jail or worse, right? And I'll use an example working with veterans, especially those who do go off to combat, because not every trauma is combat related, but for those who are, they've been trained a certain way for those environments to keep your head on a swivel. Don't trust anybody. Always be
Mhm.
on guard, right? Don't show weakness. Things of that nature. Well, these are the same symptoms that PTSD can demonstrate, but they won't know that because, well, that's just how I'm trained. So when they're discharged and brought back home, it's no different for them. And if anything, they think everyone else has the problem. That's why they have issues with irritability. Small little things can, make them upset. They have children leaving toys everywhere, or you just close the screen door, but you come back and it's cracked just a little bit.
Mhm.
Now you're yelling top of your lungs, and because that fight or flight response has kicked in because you've been traumatized so much. The amygdala in the brain is very sensitive to anything in the environment that looks like threat, and it reminds you of it. So, like you said, Fred, music, smells, clothing, certain way you speak, anything can really get you going. So you can tell you're being triggered if you're at a 0 and now you're at 1,000, right? And then the sad part is that you get so angry that you don't even remember the things you did or said, even moments later, because you black out. So it's very important that when you're doing that clinical interview and meeting that person for the first time, especially if you have experience working with trauma folk, be that mirror to show them, hey, these are the things that I'm seeing, these are the things that you're saying that may be contributing to why life is a lot harder for you. And it's hard for you to tolerate stuff because you haven't emotionally processed what you went through yet. And so it's coming out in different ways than you probably wouldn't normally.
So you
Um,
just described every child that I work with, and but when you're dealing with that, and when you're working with kids, when you have kids that come in that are diagnosed that may have experienced a trauma, and they're diagnosed with ADHD, or they're emotionally disturbed, or like any all those other things that we deal with. So, but a lot of these kids have been traumatized, and they're putting these other labels on it. When you
Oh,
have
yeah.
a kid that's going from 0 to 1,000 for what we would see as like that
Hmm.
was nothing. Like what are
right.
you
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to bring this up because I noticed one thing. Dr. Riggins, you talked about it early when we talk about church and the stigmas of therapy and religion.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm. Hmm.
so I bring this up because I'm a preacher's kid, and my dad I told him, I said, I can't do the religious practicing because it blocks me from being able to communicate and understand where God has me to go. And so for the longest we went through this tiff of him feeling like I denounced God. And that was never the never the thing. But he understands now, he gets
Hmm.
it. and
Yeah.
and so I bring
Hmm.
this up because at this women's retreat that I taught at this past weekend. There was a sister who stood up, and I don't know where this came from, but I use it, the phrase, I give myself permission to. It came through my meditation almost 5-6 years ago, and I still use that, right? So it's like I give myself permission to what it is that's going to help
Hmm.
me to be amazing and to be the beautiful woman that I am and be successful and important to someone else, right? And so I'm in the session, I'm teaching the women, and I asked them, in the class, I said, "What's the name of your school?" That's something we do in New Orleans. It's like you shout out your high school, and it's like the pride in our high school is like major. And so I'm like, "What's the name of your school?" Everybody screaming, "Oh, Barry Walker, Fauché, McDonald 35, Warren Easton, St. Augustine." And well, not St. Mary's, and they're screaming, right? These women are screaming to the top of their
Hmm.
lungs. And I said, "What do you feel like you need to release?" And the room went silent, right? And so as the room went silent, I said, "When are you going to start giving yourself permission to let things go?" And one of the ladies said, as soft, she said, "What if you never felt like you can open up to release and tell somebody how you let something go?"
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And she sat there and she cried. This lady could be my mother. She cried, she bawled tears. And she said, and I asked her, I said, why do you feel you can't say anything? Why do you feel you can't share? She said, because I don't feel safe. And so when we talk about the church, and again, we're not going against any practices, religious practices, or your deities. We're not going against that. But when it comes to self, what we want to do is to make sure that you have the tools and resources. How do you develop or build a relationship with someone who's experienced trauma in church without feeling like you're going against God, right? Because I'm sorry, Miss James, Dr. James. When you mentioned your kids were saying they don't let you touch them, or they will use another word to shun away what they really feel. How do we bring this conversation, this topic up in the church to heal the trauma so that people can see the greatness that they are?
Well, first of all, these kids gotta believe in God. Like most of these kids aren't. They don't. They don't. I work with a bunch of non-believers. They don't believe anymore. So, that's difficult in itself. But being having that feeling of safety within the church, and I feel like the church, especially the Black church, has come a lot further with being open and letting people know that it's okay to have God and have a therapist too. I mean, that's a cliche, but being that you can talk to someone, and as a matter of fact, there are something called Christian counseling, where if you feel safe with having somebody that is a Christian counselor, they go to more of a Christian based school to be educated on biblical aspects of therapeutic intervention and things like that. So they're coming from that Christian based standpoint, so people feel safe in that manner. So if you're someone that is a church going person, then you would want somebody that is coming from that background of more Christian education. But I think that's a Dr. Riggins question. Because
you was flowing so well. I almost forgot my response.
I really feel like I feel your spirit. I'm just saying I feel that because I feel like you're just listening to you talk, it's like you're very you have a very good foundation in the word, and from just listening to you, your background.
Well, listen. I don't know every verse in the Bible. However, I think being trained in Jackson, Mississippi, certainly helped a lot with that, because Mississippi is the most religious state in the union, right? And so, if I could, if I had $1 for every time someone said, "Hey, I don't know why I'm here. I'm just gonna go to church down the street. I'm gonna go to New Jerusalem, and and say a few prayers, and but." I've had to navigate that by just kind of infusing their beliefs, whatever it was, whether it was, Christianity, Islam, whatever, and help them kind of understand, hey, you're not gonna, your car breaks down on the side of the road. You're not gonna just pray for it to work, or you're not, you got a flat tire, right? You're gonna not just pray for it to be some air get put in. I mean, God does work miracles, however, He works through people. And as a therapist, God is working through me to help you. But I say that to say that it's all, avoidance is like I said, it's the engine that keeps trauma running. And people who deal with trauma without you can't have PTSD without avoidance. If you are confronting what's going on, that's where the work can really start working. But it's very interesting that folks who have trauma have found so many interesting ways to avoid dealing with it, and so they will use God as a barrier. They will use family as a barrier, their job, their kids. Like, I don't have time to go to therapy. And so when it comes to religion, you have to find your way around that barrier so that they can feel good about, okay, that is true, God does work through people. Okay, let's see what you're talking about here, right? So you got to kind of flip it on them a little bit so that they can kind of get back on the same page with you. But it's all avoidance.
Yeah. I think, that's good. And I remember when I went to 3 different schools before I finished my master's, but I finished from the seminary here. And I remember when I felt God leading me there, I was like, but why? Like what am I going to get from that? And the more and more I do this work, I see the importance of it, because like Miss James said, therapy and God can work together. There, you don't have to, it's not like and or. I
Right.
mean, it is, and it doesn't have to be or. And one thing that has really helped me is likening the scripture in a session. So like, one of Christ's main characteristics is a wonderful counselor, right? So it's like, evidently he saw this as of importance. And a lot of the things, I even think about like how in the Bible, people who were demon possessed really had some psychological challenges, right? And so I think really, when we were talking about like on a macro level how we can make a difference, I think that's a big huge way is really getting into our churches and advocating and really helping people see that, but that you can love God with all your heart and walk your faith out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just like you said, Dr. Riggins, like if your car break down, I use the term about like, if when we get sick, like we most some people might just be like, well, I'm gonna stay at home and pray about it, but 9 times out of 10, like, I'm going to see my doctor because something, my physical body, right? But we have to realize that psychologically, a lot of most things start in our minds, right?
Yeah.
Like, our physical ailments are usually the physical manifestations of stress.
Yeah.
Stress is linked to so many like physical ailments, right? And so I think it's just really helping them to, like you said earlier, Dr. Riggins, have a different experience, and really helping our spiritual leaders. I won't even say buy in, but really see it, and
Yeah.
I know one of our ministers I was talking to, and he had asked me, like, have you ever at our church, like, have you worked with anybody? I was like, no, because only the ministers do therapy. And he laughed at that and he was like, nah, I feel you. And I said to him, I was like, and I'm not saying that I'm opposed to that, but I just feel like if y'all are going to be responsible for doing therapy, then you need to go get the training to
Yeah.
fully do that. Because everything, just reading my Bible without context, without understanding, without knowing how it applies, is going to change the situation. And
Yeah.
that's another way of how church hurt happens, because then people
Yeah.
feel like, well, I did what God said, like I went to the minister and nothing changed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's another, here we go. Like, that's another form of trauma. Here so yeah.
Yeah.
Went
I
off on
also
a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. I love it.
I also wanted to add that, Christians, believers, the saints, please don't let you be the source of the trauma.
Mm.
Just kind of piggyback on what, Miss Mitchell is saying. Church hurt does exist. I've experienced it. And it's hard to see Jesus when the environment that you go to, the church, is the one that's administering
The trauma. Yeah.
trauma. I can't come here and freely worship, freely give my tithe or my time or my talent when the place where I'm supposed to feel safe is the one that's hurting me.
Yep.
Right.
And the one that's continuing to hurt me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's yeah. 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 Listen. Listen, we could go on all night, but I know Mac is like because we passed the time. But the good thing about this conversation is you all are on social media. And if anyone has questions that they want to ask, or even reach out to you for services and support, as Ms. James said, if she can't give it to you, she's gonna send you, somewhere that can help you with getting what you need. and even for families who are dealing with kids. And I know you can share about that, Ms. Jane. So where can people find you? So you all can just throw out your social media, and that way we can let Chuck be ready. Because I text you and I'm trying to text you to tell you be ready to text.
Actually, I work at a school-based health clinic right now, and I do. I work with veterans and their families through a telehealth platform. I'm not doing any private work right now, but
Okay.
if they need some help, they can reach me on Facebook at James Alina. Yeah, so if anybody needs any help, I'm James Alina on Facebook.
So Facebook, I was trying to see if Chuck was going to throw it in there, but he's leaving me to do J
James A.
A Lena.
Alina. Mm-hmm.
That's it for Facebook.
That's it. Well, I mean, I don't know how to use Instagram. Don't even gonna make me embarrass myself in front of all these people.
Okay.
I don't do all
Well,
that.
well, I done tagged you on Instagram, so go back and retag. You know. All right. Who's next?
Well, you can reach me at www.thriveworks.com and www.lifestance.com because of course, I work with both agencies.
For Dr.
So you
Fred,
can-
www.thriveworks.com.
Mhm.
Okay.
Or www.lifestance.com. I work with both of those agencies. I do therapy through ThriveWorks and I do psych testing through LifeStance Health.
Life.
LifeStance.
Mhm.
STANCE.
Mhm.
.com.
Yes.
All right. It's out there. Dr. Janae.
You can find me across all socials, Instagram, TikTok. I'm not on Twitter anymore. What's the new one? What is it?
What's the new one? They got a new one?
The
Come
other
on.
Twitter. It
Oh,
doesn't matter.
X.
X.
No.
Oh,
Well, like
the Instagram one.
Oh,
yeah,
The
Thread.
Instagram one.
threads. Yes.
Thread. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can find me at For Love Counseling, and then on Facebook at Janae Mitchell, and then www.forlovefoundation.com. It's my website.
All right,
Uh,
Dr.
I,
Wiggins.
I am in private practice. I'm able to see folks in over 35 states outside of Texas virtually. You can find me. My website is www.drrigginspllc.com.
PLC.
PLLC.com.
Okay.
And then I'm on Instagram, Dr.Reginald.Riggins is my tag on
You don't let
Instagram.
nobody tag you. I can't tag you. So I'm just letting you know I tried to tag you tonight.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll fix that.
Just FYI.
Okay. Well, I tagged you.
Okay, and I'm gonna reshare. Listen, Dr. Fred, everyone has given awesome. Dr. Mac, Mr. Mac, Blue Five, so sweet. Let's go.
No, I was thinking about. I don't know if you know what you did here, but a lot of times, folks that work with people, they absorb all of the traumas and information that they get from their clients, but they never get a chance to share with others. And
Yeah.
tonight, you really just created a mental health group therapy for therapists to be able to share their stories and be able to talk to someone that understands and know what it means, like why you sit with your chair facing the door to the door. That's a training technique. Certain things you can make comments about is almost like pledging. Folks that done pledge, you can say certain things and everybody already know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but that you created that for folks that their job and calling is to listen to people, and a lot of times when they are at their worst, and it is just needed for this group to have somewhere uh, to release, or as we talk about in life space crisis intervention, drain off. Um, is it important it is for the clients that they see. So big shout out to TBC for putting this together.
Yes,
Shout
yes.
out to Dr. Fred for we tag team on this. Thank you so much, Mr. Mack. Look, we just want to create a space. Before we leave, we're gonna throw this question out to you all professionals, so y'all can show some of your personality even more. What's your go-to song and what's your go-to movie? Let's go. Let's
Oh,
go. And you gotta sing a little bit.
now you gotta sing a little bit.
You don't have to, but what's your go-to song and what's your go-to movie? Like we talked about it last week. Like my favorite song, any song by Kendrick Lamar. Mirrors is my song.
Mm.
That's like been my number one song that's in my playlist when I'm stressing. I go straight to Mirrors, Kendrick Lamar. Movies, I'm on the Equalizer 3 now because it just came out. So that's like my go-to. I rewatch the Mission Impossibles and Equalizers up until now. So what you guys have?
Man,
I wasn't ready for that one.
right?
Yeah, because we want to see you all. They want to,
Lloyd.
because y'all are always serious, so now you get a chance to be, yeah.
I ain't trying to embarrass my grown children on this platform.
Look at that baby.
Oh, she's beautiful.
She just woke up.
Isn't she?
Hi, Munch. They about to sing, Munch.
No, we're not.
You about to sing. You got me all in my iTunes scrolling.
Come on.
Like,
Yeah, I got title open right now.
They got me all.
Y'all look if you book. Y'all know that's y'all song when you.
I'm so dead.
oh, when we're dealing with these people, y'all about to make me lose my mind.
Okay, did we change?
Yeah, that's my go-to for these kids. Like, I'm gonna quit. No, there's no song.
All right.
But that's it. Go-to movie. The Color Purple just came to the forefront because I guess it's being remade, and that's like, what you done to me, and I already done to you.
Papa, who this woman?
I love the Color Purple. I hate they remade it, but
yeah, I'm like that with the Lion King too.
The Lion King.
Dr. Janae, Dr. Rickers, Dr. Fred, y'all not? We're listening.
My go-to song, it's my favorite Michael Jackson song. It's not I guess, well-known one, but it's called "I Can't Help It."
Oh yeah,
I can't help it if I wanted to.
There you go. There you go. And my go-to movie, wow, really any Mission Impossible. Well, I'm sorry, X by Spike Lee.
Okay. Yes. Come on. By any means necessary. Let's go.
That's right.
Dr. Fred, Dr. Janae, come on. Y'all still looking. Y'all, it's taking y'all.
Yeah.
Tell me what you want. I know Dr. Fred be in the mirror.
So
nah.
you actually hit the nail on the head, Tanya, because I used to be in a singing group in college.
Come on.
I'm pretty sure Mac and Chuck remember, and so I'm a group fanatic. So any R&B group, Drew Hill, Jagged Edge,
Come on.
Jodeci. That's my. Oh yeah, absolutely. What I love. And so any song by a group, because I feel like we've kind of gotten away from the group, the harmonies and stuff like that. So anything by a group, that's my speed right there.
And your movie?
I like psychology-based movies, so I guess you might call me a cornball, but anything that has to deal with movies that have to deal with some mental health aspect, Silence of the Lambs, Girl Interrupted, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
What's the movie with is it
Shutters
Denzel?
Island. Oh no,
it was a spinoff. Is it Denzel and I can't, but I get where you're going. Okay.
Yeah. I love music. So I'm either always just like our 90s R&Bing or I'm praise and worshiping. And then
hallelujah.
Yeah. And then in the middle I'm rapping. So I'm all over the place. So I think there's the artist Madison Ryan Ward. She released her first album a couple months back, and her album is always on rotation for me. It's called The New Thing. So I really like that. And I think one of my all-time favorite classic movies is Love Jones. So Just that
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Chicago classic.
I need y'all to have Tanya Boy Cannon in y'all playlist. Let me plug that
You're
right quick.
definitely in
You
rotation.
know, you know what's beautiful is I love how this took a moment for you all just to really think and be vulnerable to share, because I know in your profession you always are asking us to be vulnerable. So now it's good to see that piece of you all for our viewers and listeners. Oh, The Bone Collector. Thank you, Tracy. The Bone Collector.
Oh.
That's the movie. Thank you, Tracy. Ew. So listen, I've enjoyed you all tonight. I know Chuck and Mac and myself, we appreciate Dr. Fred. We appreciate you for just being eager to make sure that we are continuing to stay connected in our communities, in our families, and all of you for being on the show, Dr. Riggins, Dr. Janae, Dr. James, Miss James, for being on the show. I like really appreciate you all for just taking the time to share and give knowledge, nuggets, love and support. One last nugget you all want to drop for our viewers, that you would tell them. What would you tell your client who you see growing? What would be a nugget that you would give them?
Repeat that again.
What would be a nugget that you give your clients before they leave your presence to encourage them to keep going? What would that nugget be?
For the children that I work with, I would tell them that they were more than their mistakes. You're more than your mistakes. You are more than your past. And you can design your own future.
I love that.
For sure. So something that's embedded in my practice is Sankofa. And I was actually thinking about it when Mac was talking earlier. And so I think I always try to impart to clients that no matter what has happened in your life has been taken, you can use all of that. Like all of it matters to have the future, the life that you desire to have. So not letting your past hinder you at all.
You're one step closer to your goal than you were last week. Whether it feels like it right now or not, but you are, because you're doing the work. So you just keep going, and we'll get there together.
I often tell my clients that 4 words: I'm proud of you. You'd be surprised the number of people who have never been told that before. So I often find myself telling them, I'm proud of you. And that puts them in a very good place.
Well, thank you so much for your nuggets. Everyone, you all have gotten these jewels dropped tonight. Remember, be you, because everybody else is taken. We love you. It's time for us to go. Mr. Mac, where we about to go? Thank you so much, Miss James Molina. Thank you so much, Miss Janae. We appreciate you all. Tune in next week to Nightcap Knowledge. We love y'all. I'm yours truly, Tanya Boy Cannon. George Chuck. We'll see y'all next week. Let's go.